So you don't just go to sleep, you risk never ever waking up. So every time I sedate a patient, I ask myself, can they breathe? Can they metabolize the drugs I'm giving them? Will they actually wake up? Because when your body's inflamed, insulin resistant, and obese, you don't handle anesthesia the way that we're taught that you will. So, in normal patients, we can predict airway resistance. In obese patients, it's a moving target. So, studies show that obesity increases pharyngeal fat or fat in the throat, collapses the upper airway, and narrows the oropharyngeal space. So, the space at the back of the mouth into the top of the throat, especially when you're lying down like this. So I've seen this with my own patients so patients with like double chins and recessed jaws, jaws set backwards, really small chins, whose airways they close like a trap door the moment they lose tone under sedation. So when I sedate someone, when I give people sedative meds, it completely relaxes the musculature, and that's what causes the loss of that tone. And that's not just a snore you're hearing, that's a suffocation risk, especially without intubation, a breathing tube. And if you're getting outpatient anesthesia, like a GI center at an oral surgeon's office, you're pretty much getting anesthesia, sedative meds with an open airway, meaning no breathing tube in place, and then obesity becomes even more of a threat. So the first thing that happens that I just described is obesity makes the airway a minefield, and all of the things that I just mentioned. The second thing that happens is insulin resistance alters drug pharmacokinetics, or the way that drugs work within the body. So when we give IV sedation or general anesthesia, we rely on predictable absorption and elimination of those drugs. But in patients with metabolic syndrome, the liver is fatty, the kidneys are sluggish, and the drugs, unfortunately, they hang around much longer than they're supposed to. There was a 2017 study in anesthesia and analgesia, found that obese patients had significantly delayed clearance of propofol, the main general anesthetic drug that we use, which leads to prolonged sedation and higher risk of respiratory depression, or slowed or stopping of breathing. So it's like trying to drain a pool through a clogged pipe. The drugs don't leave when they're supposed to, and they keep suppressing your breathing. They leach out of the fat very, very slowly and keep filling your bloodstream with the drug that's been kind of stashed away in the fat or the adipose tissue. So the third thing that happens is the oxygen reservoirs are lower just when you need them most. So during sedation, we pre-oxygenate patients to buy time. What that means is I put oxygen on them and I let them breathe the oxygen for a few minutes before we start to sedate them. And that gets their bloodstream filled with as much oxygen as it possibly can, so that if they slow down or stop breathing, they have plenty of oxygen already in their blood. But in metabolically unhealthy patients, this buffer, it disappears really fast. So people desaturate, or the oxygen in their blood goes down very quickly, as measured by that thing that goes on your finger called a pulse oximeter, which measures the amount of oxygen in the blood. So in metabolically unhealthy patients, that buffer, it disappears really fast. And the functional residual capacity, or FRC, which is the air left in your lungs after you exhale totally, is dramatically reduced in obese patients. So this is the air stuck behind after you've exhaled as much as you possibly can. There's still some air inside, and that air can provide additional oxygenation. But this actually shortens the time before desaturation during apnea, or decreased in blood oxygenation during times where you stop breathing, which is apnea. And this was based on a study in the British Journal of Anesthesia in 2004. So what does this mean? It means if we miss an airway or we give too much drug, you have seconds, not minutes, before oxygen crashes in obese patients. So the fourth thing we have to be aware of or conscious of is that anesthetic doses don't account for inflammation. So most drug protocols are weight-based, but weight alone tells us nothing about certain key issues, which are visceral fat, inflammatory cytokines or chemical mediators of inflammation, leptin resistance, the satiating hormone, or the satiety or fullness hormone, hypoxia sensitivity. Hypoxia is decreased oxygen to the cells. So weight alone doesn't tell us about visceral fat, these inflammatory mediators, leptin resistance, or hypoxia to the cells. So chronic low-grade inflammation present in insulin resistance sensitizes the brainstem to depressants like opioids, which we use, and benzodiazepines, which we use in anesthesia. So the translation of this is you can't safely sedate an inflamed, insulin-resistant brain the same way you would a healthy one. And finally, the fifth thing that we need to keep in mind is that fixing the root makes you safer in both surgery and in life. So this isn't fear mongering, it's risk management. Because when you lower insulin levels, you reduce inflammation, fluid shifts from one compartment to the other. So like blood vessels and vasculature. So like the volume of blood versus the volume of fluid in in and around your cells, called extracellular compartment. So inflammation, fluid shifts, airway collapsibility, or the maintaining of tone of the airway, drug sensitivity, and recovery times. All of these things are reduced when you lower insulin levels. So bariatric surgery patients, or gastric bypass, the obesity surgery patients who lose weight and reverse insulin resistance before surgery actually require less anesthesia and recover faster. And this was based on a study in the Obesity Journal, or Obesity Surgery Journal in 2018. So true safety isn't found in the OR. It starts months before you walk into the office. So my final thoughts for you. This has been episode 79 of the Obesity Project. You don't just go to sleep, you risk never waking up. Most people think anesthesia is routine. People come into my office every single day and they go, well, you're just going to put me to sleep, right? No big deal. You have to understand anesthesia is serious. And here's the best way that I describe to patients when I'm doing anesthesia. It's not exactly this, but it gets the point across. I say, I'm going to take you down to the point where we hold you right above death, and then we bring you back. And so then it sort of drives the point home about how really crucial it is to have good control over anesthesia, but also good metabolic health as well. So if your metabolism is broken, it's anything but predictable anesthesia. We don't need better drugs. We need better patients, because no monitor can reverse insulin resistance for you. And don't forget, here on the Obesity Project, we're cutting through the myths and getting to the root. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a better understanding now how obesity plays a big factor in anesthesia, both in the OR setting and in the office setting, but even more in the office setting because we have an unsecured airway. So this is critically important. I see people on a daily basis that I actually have to turn away because it's not safe to do the anesthesia in the office setting, or I have to bring them to a location where I can have an anesthesiologist put in a breathing tube and have them completely protected and safe. But even there, we've got to worry about the way the drugs are metabolized, as I mentioned earlier. But this is a critical thing that most people have no idea. They have no idea how obesity affects their ability to handle anesthesia. So this is why I created this video, and I wanted to get the message out that obesity isn't just a vanity thing. It is something that puts you at significant risk under anesthesia. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to hit that bell notification to get notified when I drop additional videos. And please share this with other folks. Give me that thumbs up, like the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.